Hello, everyone. And thanks for joining us today. We have an exciting webinar that I'm looking forward to discussing. But first, I have a few reminders while folks are still joining us while we get started. We'd like to keep our webinars conversational and welcome your questions at the end of both presentations today. You can send any questions through the panel, the Q&A button located on your Zoom control. We'll try to answer as many of these as we can live, but if we don't get to you, we'll be sure to follow up with you all afterwards. You can follow today's conversation on Twitter, as we'll be live tweeting through the webinar. Our handle is @Rio_SEO, and we'll be using #RioWebinar. Finally, we'll be sending out a link to the webinar recording within the next 24 hours, so be sure to look out for a follow-up email from Rio's marketing team. All right, let's go ahead and get started. High quality optimized photos are quickly becoming an integral component of local listings and other marketing campaigns and materials. Professional photos help boost your local visibility, increase engagement, and help click-through rates stay as high as possible. In fact, according to Google, businesses that add photos to their business profiles receive 42% more clicks than directions on Google Maps and 35% more clicks through their website than businesses who do not. Whether you're just starting your photo strategy or interested in furthering it, we're excited to dive deeper into how you can level up your online presence with images that engage and convert customers. For today's conversation, I'm joined by a great panel of marketing experts, Joy Hawkins, owner of Sterling Sky, Inc., and Mike Blumenthal, the co-founder of Near Media. My name is Brian Smith. I'm the Director of Partnerships at Rio SEO, and we'll be moderating today's discussion. Joy, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself and give the audience a brief understanding of your background and your experience? Mike, would you like to go next?
Sure.
So I'm Joy. I run an agency called Sterling Sky. We deal with local SEO, and we have clients both in the US and in Canada. And I've been working in the industry since about 2006.
Great, thank you. Mike?
So I've been in local marketing my whole adult life, first in bricks and mortar, which crashed and burned, and then starting in 2006, got involved with Google local marketing. My nickname from that era was Professor Maps, but I'd like to rename myself Professor Maps Emeritus and formally hand over the title of Professor Maps to Joy Hawkins. My current name is Local Curmudgeon. I'm the guy who complains because Joy is too polite to do so when I see problems in the ecosystem. So that's me.
Oh,
Great.
that's
Well,
awesome.
Thank you again for joining us. Once again, thank you everybody that's on today for being with us today. We're really excited about today's conversation. But before we begin, we have a poll that I'm going to launch here quickly to see where your businesses or your individual current clients currently stand with photo optimization. There are 6 options to choose from. We're going to give everybody about 40 seconds, to respond, see where that falls at. Great, looks like most of the responses are coming in. And to no surprise, I think as everybody can see, awareness stage is where everyone sits at, which is a great time for this conversation to take place. We're excited to turn around and get started and showcase some of Local Search's industry experts' formidable understanding of it. So Joy, let me go ahead and hand it over to you.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to be talking about a series of tests that we did here at Sterling Sky in the last year or so, just all around images and their impact when it comes to local businesses. So first thing we wanted to look at was ranking. So in particular, we wanted to know if images had any type of impact on organic ranking on Google. So what we're talking about here is not the local pack, but down below here, if a website's listed there, just having images on your website help you rank better in the section. So to do this, we actually had a candidate that was a client of ours that was a lawn care business. And I thought this was a great candidate because they had this article talking about issues with your lawn when you have holes all over your lawn. And their photo that they had on the page was really awfully small, barely even viewable from a mobile phone. So we were like, okay, let's see if we can get a bigger photo and what impact will that have on the ranking for this page. So I was thinking, the article was a lot about animals, specifically raccoons and skunks. So because it was challenging to get feedback sometimes from business owners that we're working with, I thought I'd go and I'd use a picture of a skunk that we already had rather than try to flag down the owner to get me photos from the different jobs that they're doing. So we put this photo of a skunk on there, made sure it was like high quality image, much larger than the one that was on their page. And what we actually found was the ranking actually went down, which was not exactly what we were expecting. So I kind of started digging into it and I was like, okay, why would this have a negative impact? And I popped over to Google and started looking around in the search results and noticed that when I clicked on Google Images, all of the images that Google was showing were not of animals per se, they were of lawns. Like the vast majority of them here were actually showing the problem. So I was like, okay, Google really wants a picture of a lawn with a bunch of dirt all over it. So I went back to the client. I said, can you send me this photo? I need a photo basically of a lawn before you guys fix it that has like dirt all over it. So he sent me a much larger photo than the one that was previously on his site. We added it and his ranking not only improved, it took over the featured snippet and pulled in the photo that we added. So it was pretty clear evidence that photos do have an impact and are definitely something that you would need to have on your website. But not just that, it's important to have the right photos. Adding the wrong photo can actually do more harm than good. So as we saw in the search result there, you'll see in the ranking graph here, initially it went down. Then of course, when we added the correct photo, it went up and took over the featured snippet. One thing I will want to point out is that we've tried this on several different industries, and we found that it does impact certain industries more than others. So we tried this for a lawyer. It did not have the same impact. And one way that you can tell if images are going to matter for your industry is to simply look at Google search results. If you see a lot of images in the search results, then they matter. And if you don't see a lot of images, I'm not saying they don't matter at all, but they definitely won't have the same type of impact that we saw with this lawn care business. So the other thing we wanted to look at was, okay, great, ranking is good. Can images also help you when it comes to converting leads into customers? So to kind of measure this, we were looking at this specific ad feature that Google came out with about a year or so ago. They have something called image extensions, which are shown here. So you can see here on the left, there's like a picture of an engagement ring right in the ad. And then on the right, there's pictures of these different security companies. So we wanted to kind of see, does adding photos into your ads using these image extensions, does that help your ad convert better? So this one we did actually try with a lawyer, and it was simply just a picture of the person, right? Like that's pretty much as far as it goes when it comes to that industry. We found that it had quite a big impact on their ad performance. So the cost per conversion was actually 35% lower, and the conversion rate was 48% higher. So if you are running ads on Google, there's a lot of companies we see all over the place that aren't utilizing these yet. And this is definitely something that you would not want to miss out on. The other thing to keep in mind if you're running ads is do not trust Google's AI to make the best decision for you. We kind of heavily monitor these because what I've found often is that Google doesn't always show the image that actually converts the best. So in this example, the one that they were showing for the majority of the time was actually converting at 4 times higher a cost. So like the cost per conversion of the top one is $41 versus the second one at $9. Yet that's the one that Google was choosing to show all the time. And if you look as well at the conversion rate column, it's even more extreme, 11% versus 54%. I really want the 54% one showing all the time. So it is one of those things that you definitely still need a human eye to look at this and see what's performing the best. In this case, the action item obviously would be to get rid of the first photo in this group, as obviously it's not performing as well as number 2. But test it, always test it, because sometimes those trends change. Of course, I want to mention stock photos because this is seriously the go-to for most small businesses that we do audits on. And it's, you know, easy. Everyone can do it. And so that's why a lot of people do. But we wanted to look at, you know, do these photos perform well? Do they do anything for you? To kind of measure this, we were actually looking at Google Posts, and we wanted to see if having a stock photo as a part of your post versus having an original image, an image that's customized, not stock photography, which one performs better in terms of clicks. So when we did this test, we found that having a non-stock photo performs way better. The number of clicks was dramatically higher. So 2.13 clicks on average per post versus 0.38 using stock photos. So this is quite a big difference. There's been other studies done on this as well. Ours was just specific to Google Posts. And the TLDR is that avoid using stock photos if you can. It's definitely better to have your own original photos. And then finally, this is the most recent one we did was we wanted to understand a little bit more about how images impact small businesses when it comes to Google reviews. So if you've noticed, Google does allow people to add photos when they're leaving reviews for your business. And, you know, you don't want to end up like Walt Disney World here and have photos of a toilet as what shows up on Google when it comes to your images. So we've kind of noticed this trend with how Google orders these reviews. And one of the things that stood out was it seemed like they were rewarding reviews that contain photos. So we did this long study where over a year, just a little over a year, I measured every month I would go in, I would check to see which reviews were floating at the top and sticking at the top ones when you looked up a business. And what we found is basically reviews that contain photos stayed up in the top reviews way longer than businesses that had reviews with no photos. So I'll kind of explain what these numbers mean. So basically the lawn care business we were monitoring, their reviews that contain photos stayed up in the top 10 for an average of 249 days. The reviews that did not contain photos only stayed up there for about 158 days on average. With the jewelry is even more extreme. Jewelry, again, being extremely photo heavy. And so I wanted to kind of look at a business in that vertical. And it was a huge difference. We basically found that the reviews that they would get without photos hardly stayed up at all. Like they would get replaced really quickly, get pushed down the list when you go on Google and you search and look up the business's reviews. So this kind of made me interested to figure out like, okay, how can I leverage this as a marketer? And so I kind of wanted to test some things. And so with my business, Sterling Sky, we use GatherUp, which actually used to be Mike's company, and he sold it, I think, a year ago. So we use them to solicit reviews from our customers, and we have, you know, great reviews on Google, but I wanted to kind of test something. So I went back to this client of ours named Billy Schroeder, and I said, Billy, I need your help with the test. You left us a review, I think it was 2 years ago. And I said, I want you to just do one thing for me. I said, go back to your review that you left us on Google. Don't touch it. Don't edit it. All I want you to do is upload a photo. So add a photo to your previously left review. And I wanted to see what would happen if he did that. And what happened was not at all what I was expecting. I was expecting, I don't know, something to happen, but it literally changed the entire order of our reviews. So this review that Billy had left us 2 years ago, back in 2020, all of a sudden floated to the top, replaced all these recent ones that we had, including a negative one. We had our first ever negative review left, like pretty recently when I tried this, from a guy that was complaining that he couldn't get through when he tried calling us. So, you know, naturally as business owner, I'm like, that's not what I want showing up first. We had an issue with our phone system, which we fixed, and he wasn't even a customer, like he never hired us. So it was really funny to see that this, basically him adding this photo, actually got rid of that review altogether. Like it pushed it out of our top 10 reviews that Google was surfacing, which is not at all what I expected would happen. The other interesting thing was it surfaced all these other old reviews as well. So now all these old reviews, along with Billy's, floated to the top. So everything that's in green never was there before, and they're all old. Like if you look at the dates, they were from like 2020, 2018, one of them, and it's now showing above more recent reviews that we had. So we tried this on another business. We're like, okay, I have a client, and this was their pattern. When you went onto their reviews on Google, they had 2 5 stars and a 1 star. And this was a really funny pattern because you can tell that this guy panicked when he got this 1-star review, because that same day he got a bunch of 5-star reviews right after it, only it didn't change the order. Like, I think that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to push this 1-star review down the list, and it didn't work. So I said, okay, can you go back to one of your clients? Same thing we did. Shoot them an email. They've already left your review. Just ask them to add a photo to their review. So he did that, and we had the same thing happen. So it pushed the 1-star review down. It wasn't quite as dramatic as what we saw with ours, where it like pushed it out of the top 10, but it did push it down. We saw the review that with the photo pop in, another older review that was super old popped up to the top. So this crazy reordering thing happened with him as well. We tried it on one more business. This one doesn't have the greatest reputation. Like, they've got a lot of negative reviews. So I was curious to see what would happen here. So we repeated the same thing. It kind of worked, but I would say if you're a business in this boat where you have a lot of negative reviews, it's probably not worth the effort to actually go back and ask customers to add photos to the reviews. So there's kind of 2 action items here. First of all, if you're asking customers for reviews, I'm hoping everybody here does that. You want to also ask them to leave photos, because this gives you some level of control over your reputation. I say some because you're never in full control, but it will allow you to help influence which reviews show up, further to the top if you engage with your customers that are really happy and ask them to add photos. And then if you get a negative review, ask your old customers, like email a couple. Everybody's got those really super loyal customers that they know just love them and would do anything for them. Those are the people I'm talking about here. Shoot them a quick email, ask them to update their review and add a photo to that review if possible. Again, if you have a ton of negative reviews, that probably won't have the same level of impact. If you have any questions about any of those studies, I think we're going to do Q&A at the end, but this is how you can reach me on various social media platforms. And that being said, Mike, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you. Should I be putting my tin hat on in terms of which ad Google chose? The $40 one or the $10 one?
Surprise, surprise.
They chose the $40 one, Mike. Like,
exactly, I know. That's why I'm getting ready to put my tin hat on. Okay. So semantic photos for the win. Semantic photos, what is that? Well, that's a phrase I invented because there's nothing really that describes this incredible intersection that's taking place between AI, search, and local marketing and all marketing, where Google is now understanding entities and objects within the photographs. They understand emotions, they understand inappropriate behavior. And this is an incredible development over the past few years. And so I use this phrase, semantic photography, to describe photographs that are understood equally well and appropriately by both humans and the machine. And I use it, secondary uses, so that when you go back to your bosses from this conversation, you have a single phrase that you can impress them with. There's a lot of research, and this is certainly something we know intuitively, that images move people more than words. But there's some recent research out of University of Southern California at Davis where they showed people positive images, they showed other people negative images, they showed people positive text. And they then, when they debrief these subjects, they put lemonade in front of them and soft drinks. And what they found was that the people who saw positive images consumed roughly 15% more lemonade than the people who saw negative images or who saw positive text. So there's this very unusual thing about images, that they work on humans in a very sort of organic, intuitive way that is almost beyond humans' sort of acknowledgement, conscious acknowledgement, but will largely, and this is something that Google understands, largely impact their behavior when they see these things in the search results. So I'm going to be covering 4 areas, and the 4th area I'm splitting with Rio. They're going to sort of cover the second part of it: optimizing images for success, coping with Google's rejection and their moderation strategies in local, some case studies that I've done looking at performance of images in the real world, and then sort of ideas on what Google's going to be doing moving forward, as well as how you can participate in this ongoing change. this is an image of the top, I guess, 7 images in a local listing over a 2-week period when after one image was added to this mix. And what you see and what we have learned about Google is that they mix up the images all the time. They're always testing which images work best and which ones perform best, and they're reordering images based on that understanding. And you can see with addition of one image on February 26th, every image in that beyond the first one shifted position. And what this really means is that every image on Google Local needs to be a great image, because you never know which one Google's going to choose to show, either based on the query or based on some other attribute. So you really have to be sure that every image both shows your business in a good light and reflects your brand. The other thing that's interesting to me in terms of Google, in particularly in local, but across all organic too, is that searcher intent is being reflected back to the user with images. On the left screenshot, you see a search for engagement rings for a jeweler in Williamsville that I've been working with for many years. And you see on her listing, an engagement ring shows. You also see it on the ad for that listing. And then when we switch the query to pearl earrings, Google shows pearl earrings in the roughly the same pack order. What this points out is that you need photos to match almost every potential product or service that you provide, because Google is going to return those photos. They have to look good and be compelling and look better than the competition and be available to Google. Additionally, Google is creating a whole range of new sort of search units. This is a search unit called Find Places Through Photos, which is a very visual search unit. It looks much like Pinterest, very little text information. It's usually just a picture, the business name, and the star rating. And it is clearly driven by AI, because when you search and it appears below the pack, it's usually 2 or 3 places below the pack, but it's filling up the search results with related images related. So you need images not just for every product and service, but you need multiple images for all of these products and services in your Google Local situation. Now, in addition, Google is segmenting these images based on their AI and their understanding of images. So if a business has multiple images of a given product or service that Google can determine, they will segment them and create faceted sort of interface to allow you to drive through those different groupings in the local profile. So you can see here that they have chains, they have earrings, engagement rings. So again, this points out that the need for not just one in each of these categories. Barbara's been uploading these images for 12 years now. So Google has a lot of imagery in each of them. And when they do, they create these sort of segmented, very focused, faceted search so that a user can then go look at just the earrings. So you need multiple images for every product and service. It's also, as Joy pointed out, this is relevant for web results. And frequently, if Google can match the image to the search query, they will. And you'll also notice at the top that they then facet the search results and provide users with this option to dig into more granular detail than just an engagement ring, diamond engagement rings, women engagement ring, gold engagement rings. So you typically want more than one image of each of these products or services on the given page. And Google often won't show just one image. They may show 3 images, which is another reason you want multiple images per page. And in some situations, they'll show 5 images. Now, they're also bringing out local e-commerce driven search results. So this was, I can't remember exactly the search, but what you will see in local search results for engagement rings or amethyst turquoise rings, for example, I think this was, you'll see these other units coming either from Google Images or from places like Etsy or other e-commerce sites where they're collating these images actually in a 2x2 grid, again, filling up results and providing additional, oops, where did I go? So I went back.
Let me go back to the slide here.
It's okay. I got it. You cough and my presentation.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's strange. So one of the things that every business should be doing is they should be using Google's API to test every image to make sure that Google understands the image the same way that you do or that the user does. If you go to cloud.google.com/image, you can do this. If you do this a lot, Google will put up a paywall. They've paywalled one of my accounts, but obviously I have 4 or 5 Google accounts, so I can always get through, but you'll find that they'll paywall it, but it's a very interesting tool. And so this is two pictures that I've shown frequently. Both are from the same real live shoot, dentist, it's a client of Patient Pop. And you see the image on the left and with the glove and the image on the right. And so just in your mind, I want you to think which one of these looks most like a dentist to you. Obviously, they both do. They have slightly different aesthetic standards. But when you drive this through Google's API, what you see is that because of the positioning of the hand vis-a-vis the face and the tools, Google prioritizes their understanding as glasses, medical equipment, safety gloves, vision care, and dentist is way down the list. Whereas on the image on the right, Google clearly prioritizes an image of a dentist. So both are good images. If it's a tie in terms of which one you want to show, then you should be using the one that Google fully understands. Now, the other point that Joy made, and I just want to reemphasize it, is that stock photos don't work that well. Clearly, the main reason is that they aren't trusted and they don't convert as well. But this was an interesting case I found where, oops, boy, sorry, I get excited and I start waving my hands and it affects my eyes. This is an interesting case where I found a dentist using stock images. And when I dropped these stock images into reverse image search, a number of these images were also available on porn sites. So not only does it screw up conversions, it may screw up your, there's a strong potential for negative associations here. So Google has started using AI to moderate images. And I just want to show you some examples of this, give you some ideas for coping. So with Google, they've become an AI first company. When it comes to image moderation in images, uploaded images for posts or your Google business profile, Google is using AI to make a decision about whether to accept or reject that image. The problem is that they use AI first. Now, translated, that means no support or no recourse. Google often rejects images for totally obscure reasons, but you don't know why or what's going on. And there's no way to go back to Google and say, gee, what's wrong with this image? So what Google calls AI first, I call kind of a pain in the neck. But I want to show you some examples of images that I've found either in the forums or put through Google's API to test them. So I want you to look at these two images of males and decide which, if either or both of these might be flagged by Google as inappropriate. Man in a wreck, a man doing exercise in a gym. Okay, on the left, some girls doing water polo. On the right, a model. One on the left, one on the right, or both. And this one, a plumber clearing the sink successfully, and 3 old farts doing a podcast. Which of these do you think Google rejected? Well, it's kind of an unfair test because they rejected all of them. Every one of these were rejected by Google's, what I call nanny bot, and reflect what I consider to be moderation failures on the part of the AI. When you drive them through the Google API, what you see of this guy in shorts, likely, I think this was from a California lawyer, was that it was possibly adult material and it was very likely to be racy. Oops, boy, I don't know what goes on.
A little touchy, isn't it?
It is a little touchy. Let me get back, but it always goes backwards, which is interesting. So part of the problem here is that if you're in certain industries like fashion or gyms or massage, you're likely to run into problems. But there are some guidelines that you can use when you do get these rejections to minimize them. One is don't reuse images. Google has put in place in the same location, don't reuse images. Google is now watching for that and will reject them. They're also rejecting images that have significant text overlays. If it has more than 10% along an edge, it's got to be 10%, can't be in the middle of the image, it can only be along the bottom or right edge or left edge, they'll get rejected. It has to have proper exposure. You don't want filters, it's got to be not blurry. So in other words, it's got to be a high quality image, and then it's got to pass their safe search tests in the API. So like I said, don't use images with too much skin. And if you're in one of these sort of types of businesses that you're like massage or gyms or whatever, really think carefully about it before you post them. Now, the other problem though, is that there is a bug in their upload software. It seems to happen more on weekends. I don't know why, but when you upload an image, it gets rejected instantly. But if you let the image sit there through the weekend, the rejection goes away and it shows up on Monday. So this is the time when I used to say, take 2 beers and come back Monday, but I'm switching my advice to take 2 bourbons and come back Monday, because you really need stronger assistance to deal with some of the weird bugs that are in Google these days. And these new rules are being enforced just arbitrarily and untransparently to the users. So you have no idea which rule you've ran foul of. An interesting pro tip that was shared on Twitter, that sometimes just lighting brightness change can reduce the negative grading of an image. So in this case, we had an image that was lightened and it became less racy as a result. So there are images though also that you don't want. Google loves orthogonal sources for data. They love getting images wherever they can get them, and they see them as a source of truth. This was a Starbucks in downtown Los Angeles where some odd character frequented and consistently uploaded King Tut images. It obviously not consistent with brand, not consistent with anything, provides no value to the user, and Google let these fly. So clearly you want to set up a system where you are monitoring your locations. Now, if you're a single location business, it's fairly trivial to report them. However, if you are multi-location, this becomes very difficult. Now, Rio has this feature in their software that actually looks for and automatically reports these bad images for you. So this was a shoot I did using the software of a grocery store. The Guardian aspect of the Rio software went through, looked at the other user-generated content and started reporting them, and they started getting removed. So if you're doing this at scale, I don't know how you do this at scale without a tool like Rio's.
Yeah, I have to echo your sentiment on that. It's an incredibly scalable tool that enables, our clients to be able to take use of it. So
right, doesn't get every image, but it really is. It does a really good job.
Yep.
So some case studies. This is some interesting research from Airbnb where they took, I think, 3,000 locations, and they compared locations that had professional images that they assessed via their AI. And they looked for things like follow the rule of third, where the image was framed with a third of the important part of the image on the left in a third of the segment. They looked for images that had visual balance, that were correctly color corrected. And what they found when they compared these 3,000 locations, half with and half without professional images, they saw a 17% increase in demand with a $2,500 per unit annual increase in value. Google understands this. They know that good images convert better. Obviously, at ROIs like this, it makes sense to hire a pro to get the lighting correct, to get an image that complies with the AI understanding of what is good photography. It's a really good return on investment. The interesting piece of research out of Patient Pop, they did some professional photography and started dripping it, and they found that 2 to 3 photos per week provided a month over month CTR increase through their whole system of 14%. And then, so local is about conversions. Obviously, we know that rank impacts conversions. We know that reviews and ratings impact conversions, and we know that compelling photos impact conversions. But some of this impact is so large that I think that Google is doing something else when you have good images. What it is, I don't quite know, because we don't typically see ranking increases in local. But this is some study out of Patient Pop done by Joel Hadley, who now is at Rio, a new director or VP of product development, which is, I think, is great for everybody. And what they did, they swapped out images on, I think it was 4 locations. They had 4 comparable locations. They adjusted for normal growth or lack of growth in the image, in the conversions, and then swapped out stock images for real images done through a professional photographic service, and then they tracked it all the way to the appointments at the end. So this is for medical practices. And they saw 11% increase in appointments, which means huge lifetime value. Oops. So obviously Google is committed to this new visual search paradigm. I went back and pulled out all of my screenshots for this same search over the years. And in 2016, you could see virtually no images in the pack. 2018, they started showing up. 2021, they started expanding them and putting in this carousel where when you scrolled over them, it would expand. And I went and I literally measured every pixel on several scrolls of a mobile screen, and found that more space was devoted to images than any other aspect of the search, more than text, more than the map, and roughly equal to the white space. 36% of the screen was devoted to images. So this is a video of a search for breakfast in New York, and you can see the amount of imagery in this search result. And this is that search by photos feature. This is images in the organic pack. You'll see here in a second. Oh, here it is. Order food, another new search unit. And at the Google Live marketing event earlier this year, they noted that they're transforming the SERPs into an endless stream of visual ideas, to the point where we just recently saw animations of videos in the local pack results. And you can see this TikTok result where the videos are starting in the search results. So Google is putting these in more and more places. They're doubling down on these visual search units. This is what you see when you click through this find places through photos. But just today, when I was cursoring over the little red dots on the map in the organic test, the local pack results, they now have attached images to those dots. So if you call up a 3-pack and you go over and cursor over the red dots on the map, you'll see Google popping images up. So you also have all heard about the Google Lens, where you can now search by images. So they're clearly doubling down on images in the search results. So I was doing some research for this, and it struck me that the analogy was very close to the idea of creating copy that both Google and users loved. And I found an article from SEO Clarity, one of the leading SEO firms in the country, from 2019 that articulated this point. What struck me was that 2019 is about 15 years too late for this concept, or something that LocalU we've been talking about since 2010. And so this is 2019. I'm seeing this article. Really, what you don't want is to be seeing this article or writing this article yourself in 2029, that you want to be having images that both Google and users love. This should be something you should be working on now, because it's going to increase conversions now. It's going to make your clients and your businesses perform better now. So don't wait 10 years or however many years is 2029, 7, to make this happen. So if you're interested in images and you think that I'm brilliant and love listening to me, you can subscribe to my newsletter at this URL. And if you do, we'll send you a white paper on sort of the logic and examples of these images in search and how Google is handling it. And love to have you subscribe to our newsletter, but you might, even if you just subscribe to get the white paper, you may find it useful. So with that, over to you.
Perfect. Well, thanks. It really does show that an image is worth 1,000 words here. And I really appreciate both Joy and Mike, your perspective and what you've seen throughout history, as well as what we're seeing and walking into as search marketers moving forward. Now it's time for a little shameless plug for, I think Mike had shared that earlier with you with regards to Rio SEO's local photo solution. Local photos really ensures that each of your business's listings are equally as equipped with high quality photos, so you can actually be discovered within the search engine results. We do so by connecting you with your business, with professional photographers in your area who follow Google's images best practices, optimizing photos for Google crawlers, as Mike had referred to, for image recognition, and ensuring that each photo is shot to Google's image standards with regards to aspect ratios and lighting. This helps your business alleviate the burden in finding and hiring a photographer in your local area, ensuring that your photos are taken and optimized to show up for search results, as we found today, and differentiates yourself from your local competition, who are most likely lacking in terms of photo optimization themselves. If you're interested in learning more about how Rio's local photo solution can help you optimize your business at scale and follow Google image best practices, current clients can reach out to their account director today. And if you're not a client, we'd love to learn more about you. If you send us an email at hello@rioseo.com, we'll be more than happy to return your email. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today and during today's discussion. A big special thank you to our panelists, Joy Hawkins and Mike Blumenthal, for taking the time to chat today. Now we're going to go ahead and take some questions. And I'm trying to find.
So the first question is from Jason Brown, which is purely a joke. Is Sterling Sky a UK company? Yes, Jason, they are not. I don't know who the review expert is. Nobody's an expert in this business, or if they are, they're only 5 minutes ahead. That's Jason's questions and answers. This came in from Kurt Impens. A pic normally contains data when it's taken. This means that Google does not read this info, ? Because adding a new pic to an overview, Google should say something is not right. That's correct. Google discards all meta information from every photo you upload, whether it's reviews or whether it's to the Google Pack or whatever, or even information on the website. Like I did tests of images that I looked at, like 50 businesses that had images that showed in the organic search results. Only one of them had a meaningful file name. 49 of them had no meta information, no file name information. Google was clearly making these decisions based on their AI understanding of the image. They don't care about the meta information because they don't need it anymore. I'll turn it back over to you so you can moderate this now that you've got them.
Great. Unfortunately, I am not seeing them on my computer. They're not.
All right.
So I'm going to let you handle it. I apologize.
This is to Chad Treadway, who asked if I can send a link to that study. I'm not sure which study. If you email me, mblumenthal@nearmedia.co, I'll be glad to send you with more details. We can send you. This from Paul, wanted to know if Joy is already wearing a Christmas jumper. Joy?
Yeah, no, this is a Christmas shirt. We start celebrating Christmas here in early November because our Thanksgiving is already over.
Aha, they already have lights on their house too, God forbid. So let's see, anonymous attendee, didn't Google announce that they're doing away with photo insights in GBP? If so, doesn't that tell us that they aren't important enough to report on, and therefore we shouldn't be concerned with focusing our efforts on them? Joe, do you want to take a first stab at that, or do you want me to? If you're
Sure.
under some constraint.
I'm still waiting for an official answer from Google on what they're doing with photo insights. They are gone, so they don't exist anymore in the new dashboard in search. And I don't think they're coming back. That's again my opinion. But as far as why they were removed, this is all my speculation, right? So just to clarify, Google didn't tell me any of this. The insights for photos were very not helpful. They were really inflated numbers. Basically, anytime your photo showed up anywhere in a search result on a page, even if the user didn't basically have it up in their main view. So I used to give the example of when you do a search for a specific business, at the very bottom of the page, it'll list nearby businesses or related businesses. You're not even looking in that section, but every single one of those searches would trigger a view. So my hope is that Google's coming out with a more meaningful metric that won't be so choppy. That was another problem we had with photo insights. There was giant spikes and drops, and people had a really hard time making any sense of the numbers because the way they were being calculated, in my opinion, was not at all helpful.
So they did give me an official comms today in the Silver Forum, if you want to go look at it. But basically they said that the insights were going away. And in terms of what Google thinks is important, I would suggest that what you see in the search results is what really reflects Google's decision about importance. The fact that the search results have turned from 0% imagery to 36% imagery, that they're now including, animated videos in those results, that they're showing more and more photo results. That to me is the real answer about what Google thinks. And so to me, you don't have to look any further than the search results to get an answer to that. Next question from Chris Lean. Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly, Chris. If not, send me the bill. If we have a person-to-person customer service rather than sell items, would you recommend we use an actual or a stock photograph of two people meeting? I would say actual. And the reason is that Google understands stock photography. They know every place that image has been before. And I believe that it is held against you at some mild level, or at least you're not rewarded. I also think that that image of people should be a happy people. That what you saw with that University of Southern California Davis study is that images of happy people cause users to convert more. Google is worried about conversions. They optimize everything for conversions. So I believe that images of people should be happy people. So I would, in terms of using a product or service photo, how would you link that to the reviews in search results? Joy, do you want to take a stab at that, or?
Sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, yeah, how do you link a product or service photo? Well, if you're asking about how to link it to the organic results, then you want to be sure that that image is high up on the organic page, probably in the first 1 or 2 paragraphs in the body content of the page, not in a big header and not below that. In terms of review, you get it done by asking the user, as Joy pointed out. Let's see, this is from Nikita. Hopefully I've answered those questions, or we have. Nikita Johnson, I'll let you answer this one, Joy. Google just announced, whoops, keeps shifting on me. Google just announced some huge local algorithm updates, including guided search. It brings together photos and videos from social platforms to places and listings in Google Maps. How do we stay ahead with our photo strategy with this coming around the corner? Do you want, I'm not sure what the guided search is, the announcement is. But
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Google started pulling in images from like other social media platforms. There definitely hasn't been any integration up to this point. Like I've never seen, photos from Facebook or Instagram or any of those places pulling in. I know that Google used to do that years ago where they would pull in photos from third-party directories. And I don't think we're headed back in that direction, but I would say as far as like how photos and videos work on social platforms, that's definitely not my expertise. I'm not a TikTok expert.
Well, in my example of the breakfast breakfast in New York City, Google was pulling in TikTok videos. I mean, I think that the path to the future is quite clear, that for the next year or two, still imagery is what's most important. But you can see with the ascendancy of TikTok, the various shorts and in YouTube and Instagram, videos are going to become increasingly important. So I think at some point you want to think about transitioning to video, because Google is now including the videos in the profile when you click on the images and highlighting them from like the local finder. I think you want to think about mixing in a video even now to your stills, but I don't think it's primarily about video, and it certainly isn't about 360s, which seem to have fallen to the bottom of the pile. So I think the way you stay ahead of images is by doing what's best for the customer, which is providing meaningful, real images of great products and happy customers and employees doing their jobs. When you say don't, go ahead. Sorry, Joy.
Oh, I was just going to add, like, I know videos is a whole separate topic that we could probably talk about as well. But since they mentioned TikTok, one thing I will say to not forget about is YouTube Shorts, because that's basically Google's competitor to TikTok. And one thing we've definitely seen with video trends is that Google likes YouTube. Like, so if you are uploading your videos to YouTube, they will perform better on Google search than if you use Vimeo. And yes, we've actually tested that. It makes a huge difference when it comes to Google traffic. So I have a feeling that Google's going to prioritize videos from from YouTube Shorts over TikTok videos, but we'll see.
And Google is applying the same API logic to understanding the visual content of videos as well as the spoken content. So they're using their advanced AI to interpret those equally to photos at this moment. This came in from an anonymous attendee. Anonymous is posting a lot here. When you say don't reuse images, is that only on GBP or does that include social networks and your website as well? Primarily in GBP is where it's going to be rejected if you duplicate images. So I wouldn't use them there, but I don't think it's a problem elsewhere. I mean, Google, you have limited resources. You can't have an infinite number of original images. But I think with a product like Rio SEO's product, you can get enough images for a year that you can use in multiple places and you can reuse them. They also, the way they organize the products, they have, sort of, this is the preferred product in this particular topic, but they give you the B-rolls as well. So there's a lot of imagery there. Kathleen Rhodes asked, how do I get the report from Near Media if I'm already subscribed? Just email me, mblumenthal@nearmedia.co, and I'll send you the link. Are these photos in GBP and SERPs using title tags? Good question. The answer is no. Google gave up because nobody uses title tags. Doesn't mean that it isn't still best practice, and it doesn't mean that it isn't helpful for, it's not a title tag, it's actually an image tag, but I assume you're referring to. But it isn't helpful for Google, but it is helpful to your users, and I think it's best practice to do it, and it can't hurt. This came from Anonymous again. My clients won't help with images at all. Any tips for motivating them to take pictures of their local offices? Good question. I mean, I think that one thing you might do is look at a service like Rio for the first year, demonstrate the value of images to them, and then once they see the value, they can make a decision how they want to go forward, either pay for it or do it themselves. But in terms of motivating small businesses to do work on their own behalf, Joy can confirm this. It's very hard. How much time do we have? A few minutes.
We got a few more minutes.
So this from Kurt. Thanks a lot, Mike. That means that we don't have to give each pick a specific name to please Google, but only for our own classification. That would be my sense of it. I mean, I think that, again, it never hurts to be clear for both the user and Google on things like image names and alt tags, but I don't think it's needed for Google.
Yeah, I found that, I just want to say I found that interesting that Google was actually putting its own taxonomy on the images itself and then
Right.
categorizing them appropriately.
Right. I mean, you have to realize they've gotten 4 trillion images uploaded in their image product. They get 28 billion images and video a week. That doesn't even count all the stuff they scraped off the web or all the stuff that local businesses upload. They have a bigger image set to train their AI than anybody in the world, and they're using it. I'm sorry, Joy, go ahead.
I'm just going to clarify because I feel like sometimes when people talk about images, they're not clarifying where they're talking about. Like if you add an image to your Google business profile, you don't need to name it. So absolutely correct there. If you're adding it to your website, the things like file names and alt tags, they still impact ranking, both organically and in the 3-pack. So you absolutely should be making sure you tag your images when you're adding them to your website. And I'm not talking about geotags. I'm talking about like, the alt tag for screen readers and stuff to read, and then also the file name of the actual image. Instead of having it be 54321, have it actually be a file name that talks about what the image is.
Right. Do you know if Google's quality tests and speed tests look at alt tags as part of those tests?
Like as far as how fast your website is?
Not just speed, but they look at usability and all these other things, right? Do they look at that attribute or not?
I'm not sure. We really only tested to see if it impacts ranking or, how it shows up, and it does, but not so when you're adding to your Google listing, like all that data doesn't get saved anywhere.
Right. So this came from Kurt Impens again. If I read all this correctly, there's a bright future for photographers. I would agree. Who then runs the images through the Google's API vision? Well, that's something that Rio does automatically at the time of shoot. One of the nice, interesting things about Rio's product is that the photographer is fed back in real time the relationship of the image to the search query, and the photographer can't move on until they get an A rating on their shoot. So if you're not going to use a product like that, then somebody has to do it. The SEO or somebody else has to, before it gets used, has to run it through the API.
I see that there's a question for Joy here. I'm now away from my technology challenges here. So from
Good.
From Denver, great. I'm in Denver as well. So mentions she had a pleasure of attending a LocalU in Denver this past year. Joy, you're still seeing that Google is rejecting stock photos and posts.
We're not actually. That was a big problem in the summer where we were seeing mass rejections happening, and specifically we tied them back to stock photos being used. Those aren't happening anymore at the level that they used to be. But that being said, I still would advocate strongly against using stock photos in your posts for the reason that I showed in my slides, that you'll get way less clicks. So think about it from that perspective.
It's good. Last question comes from Kurt again. Does someone know if Google is makes the difference between videos and photos? Does G prefer one over the other for ranking? And Mike, you want to take that?
Well, Joy, why don't you take it first, and then
I wouldn't say like an either or. You want both. And I would say if you want both, it depends on what the search result shows. Like not every search result is a video search. So you really have to look and see what's there. But we see this with home service clients all the time. There's a lot of like how-to videos. You do searches for various repairs and things for all the different types of businesses that offer those, and tons of videos are in the search results. So if you're competing for a search result like that, you must have videos.
At least with still photography, there aren't many cases where it impacts ranking. There is, you saw it in your situation, but most of the time it impacts conversions much more than it impacts ranking. And the other thing I would add about videos is clearly you need to keep an eye on Google and see what, like what Joyce said, see what they're showing. But now that we're seeing videos show up in the top 3 images on the business profile, and Google animates that video, that's a very compelling visual that assists in conversions. So like I said before, I would dabble in them at this point as opposed to commit to them 100%.
Great. Well, we are running up against time. So thank you, Mike, Joy. It's been a pleasure moderating today's discussion. For those that are in attendance, we host 3 types of local search discussions every month, hosting another webinar here in a couple of weeks on Thursday, December 8th on the future of local marketing and predictions for 2023. You can register for that by visiting rioseo.com. Thank you again, and everybody have a great day.